The Quran is a massive text with thousands of verses that guide the lives of over 1 billion people. But what if I told you that for centuries, a huge, intense debate has boiled down to just one verse, and really just one single word inside it? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to unpack what is arguably the most controversial phrase in the entire scripture, a phrase that sparks these incredible discussions about marriage, ethics, and how we even read a sacred text in the first place. Okay, so here's the term at the center of it all, wa-dribuhunna. It shows up in a chapter all about marital relationships, and its most common direct translation is, and strike them. As you can imagine, this is where all the controversy comes from. To really get it, you have to see it in context. The verse lays out this 3-step process for a husband if he fears serious misconduct, often translated as nushuz, from his wife. Step 1, advise her. Step 2, separate from her in bed. And then there's this debated third and final step, wa-dribuhunna. So you might be wondering, how often does this command actually appear? And here's something that might really surprise you. This is the one and only time in the entire Quran that this directive is given. Just once. Okay, so hold that number 1 in your mind. Now contrast it with this. There are more than 15 direct commands and recommendations for spouses to treat each other with kindness, with mercy, affection, and goodness. And when you see it laid out like this, the central puzzle becomes crystal clear. How does this one, seemingly harsh directive fit into a book that, everywhere else, overwhelmingly emphasizes compassion and mutual respect in a marriage? That is the heart of the entire debate. To understand how people arrive at different answers, we've got to get into the nitty-gritty of the Arabic language. See, the word idribu comes from a 3-letter root, dad, ra, ba, or DRB. In Arabic, these roots are like Lego blocks. You can use them to build dozens of different words that are related, but have very distinct meanings. And what's so fascinating is that this specific root verb, daraba, is used all over the Quran in a whole bunch of ways. Yes, it can absolutely mean to physically strike, but it's also used to mean to travel, or to set an example, or even to cover something. It's even used to mean to separate. The point is, context is everything. It completely changes the meaning. And this is another really, really crucial point. You have to remember this sequence. Whatever this action is, it's not a first response. It's presented as the absolute last resort after a series of escalating, nonviolent steps that are supposed to resolve a serious conflict. So, because that root word is so flexible, you basically end up with 2 major schools of thought. On one side, you have the classical interpretation, and on the other, a more modern reformist view. And they both really hinge on which meaning of daraba they think fits best in this specific context. The classical view, which is held by many traditional scholars, says that if it is a physical act, it has to be symbolic and non-injurious. They often point to sayings from the Prophet Muhammad to clarify that it shouldn't leave a mark or cause any pain. They compare it to a light tap with a miswak, which is like a small natural toothbrush made from a twig, or even just a folded handkerchief. The goal, they argue, isn't to inflict harm, but to psychologically show how serious the situation has become. Now, the reformist perspective really challenges this. They argue that it's a mistake to lock in the meaning as to strike, when other meanings like to separate or to distance are just as valid linguistically. For them, interpreting the word as a final act of separation or distancing just aligns so much better with the Quran's bigger message of mercy and compassion in a marriage. So you see, this isn't just about a dictionary definition, right? It goes way deeper. It's really about your whole method of interpretation. Do you give more weight to tradition and historical context, which might lead you to the idea of a symbolic physical act? Or do you prioritize the internal themes and linguistic consistency of the Quran itself, which might point you toward a totally non-physical conclusion? And ultimately, what this single word does is force this incredible confrontation between language, tradition, and our evolving ethical ideas. It brings up these fundamental questions about authority, gender, and the very nature of how a sacred text is supposed to be understood in our modern world. And that's exactly why this conversation is still so urgent and so vital today. And that leaves us with this profound question that goes way beyond this one verse. When we engage with ancient texts, are we trying to uncover some single, fixed meaning from the past, or is meaning something that we co-create?
something that evolves with the understanding and the conscience of every new generation of readers.
الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم فالصالحات قانتات حافظات للغيب بما حفظ الله واللاتي تخافون نشوزهن فعظوهن في المضاجع واضربوهن فإن أطعنكم فلا تبغوا عليهن سبيلا إن الله كان عليا كبيرا.